What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 228. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You drop a follow over there, you get notified when we go live, so you join on the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch live, that's a-okay. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, likes, shares, reviews, whatever it is, may seem small, but does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, another solo cast, as you can see. We're going to be talking a lot of video games, some games that I've been playing either on stream or off stream lately and have wrapped up, and kind of wanted to give my general overall thoughts, feelings about each of those experiences. So obviously, as we get to them, spoilers. But yeah, let's jump on into it with one we actually just finished on stream recently as of recording. It's Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, this is my first time playing RE4 in any capacity. And I had an amazing time with it. Of course, there were certain times where we did run into, I guess you could say, frustrating moments with certain enemies, moments with how RE4 is in comparison to, for example, RE2 and RE3, RE7. With that action-oriented gameplay, they're throwing a lot at you. So certainly those moments can be a little stressful and a little panicky. But overall, I really did enjoy what Remake had to offer. Now, I've seen clips and bits and pieces of RE4 originally, so I don't know how much like this differs from the original and how gameplay's better or improved or adjusted rather for the remake. But what I've played of the remake, or my time with it rather, I really had a great time with it. I thought there was plenty of moments where you could catch your breath, a lot of save room opportunities, a lot of moments with the merchant, the seller, so you could kind of take a break there, recollect yourself. Even though there was a lot of action in there, I didn't feel many moments where I felt like I was deprived for bullets. Granted, we were playing on like the standard normal difficulty, so I assume that gets more difficult if you're going to push that bar higher. But for what we played, it never felt super bad. There was a couple times where we did get lower, but I never reached a point where we were completely out of everything and we're screwed. You only got the knife. Oh, nope, your knife's broken, whatever it is. So while it got tense at times, it never felt like an impossible mountain to climb ahead of you. Whether it was, once again, those big hordes of enemies that they sent at you of either A, just survive long enough until a time limit, or take them all out, it always felt fair in that thing, in those moments, with the groups and with the bigger enemies that they did throw at us. Now, my history with RE is a weird one. I got to it late. I mean, I was a scaredy cat, so I didn't really feel like I was going to jump into Resident Evil ever, but jumped in with the hype around 7 back in 2015, 2016? No, I think it was 15. Jumped in the hype around that, and obviously that game is way different than what we're talking about now with RE4. Speaking of, we will be replaying it for stream soonish, so keep an eye on there, on that. But RE7 was where I jumped in, and then from there with the remainder of the remakes with RE2 Remake and RE3 Remake, jumped over to that, and have been kind of playing this weird back and forth game, 7, 2, 3, 8, now 4. Don't know if I'll jump into 5 and 6, perhaps if they continue what they're doing with the remakes, whether it's 5 and 6 or it's Code Veronica, which I hear a lot of people kind of want. We'll have to see. They seem to have slowed down with their output of the Resident Evils. I think they had a good string where they were doing one a year, whether it was the continuation of 7 and 8 or the remakes of 2 and 3. They've slowed down. I don't think we've gotten a release since RE4 Remake, which was last year, 2023. So we'll have to see if, they put out any titles come 2025, or what the excuse me, or what the plan is over there on Capcom. But I know also they've been focusing heavily on Monster Hunter Wilds. Granted, that could be a different team, but still, let's see. So RE4 Remake, yeah, it was 2023. Then before that, it was Reverse, which was a spin-off game at 22, Village 21, RE3 Remake at 2020, RE2 Remake at 2019, and then, oh really, RE7 was 2017. My apologies. I guess we had like the kitchen demo, and the buzz around that was 2015, 2016 era, because I remember watching Maximilian Dude go through that with his buddies while I was out in California, or at least I feel like I was. So we'll have to see what their release plan is going forward. I haven't heard of anything. But yeah, going back to RE4, I had a good time with that. I'm trying to think if there were any negatives. Like I said, just a few stressful times of dealing with certain enemies, of just like, you're throwing this at me right now. Like those regenerating guys, those guys are a pain in the ass. I don't think I took out many of those. I think there was one that you had to, where it kind of evolved into a stage 2, where it had like almost spikes coming out of it, like a porcupine. That was frustrating because you had the attachment, the thermal, to see like, oh, you have to shoot these 3 hearts. That's how you actually get it. And it just for some reason didn't seem like it was, the bullets were penetrating or hitting those targets. That was a little frustrating. So I didn't kill too many of those guys. That was kind of like, I see ya, bye, I'm out of here, and make a run for it. Ashley, I was worried about how Ashley and her mechanics were going to play. So for those of you guys who don't know what the RE4 story is, you're continuing Leon's story, I guess, from RE2, and you are on a mission to save the president's daughter and bring her back safely. She's been captured by this cult where everybody's infected by Las Plagas, which is like essentially some zombie virus where they're all tentacle-y and crazy monsters. And that's like a hive mind where Sadler, the big bad, kind of controls them and has them do his bidding. So she gets captured, and once you're able to find her and locate her, you kind of escort her around through the areas to safety to try and get her out. And it's the whole back and forth of like, oh, you got her, now she got captured again, now you gotta go get her, and then back and forth there. So when we first got her, man, I was like, this is going to be awful, just having her with you. Obviously, when you're in the action, you just have to worry about yourself, running around, avoid the zombies, go here, go there. With her, she's obviously not prepared for any of this. She doesn't have a gun. She's got no weaponry with her. So you can tell her either stick close to you and you can try and book it and maneuver through areas, or you can have her hang back. And you can also hide her in certain places. And I think hiding her was like the saving grace a couple times, like, hey, stick in this locker, do not move, because they won't find her, thank goodness, while you're able to clear up the room or whatever. But when you didn't have an option to hide her, it was stressful at certain times. If she takes a hit, she's down, and then if she's down and takes a second hit, she like insta-dies. She can get carried away, and if you don't get her quick enough, which we ran into a couple times on stream, it'll be just instant game over. You can actually accidentally shoot her, if you're trying to, like, they're carrying her away, I shot her in the leg, game over. So you got to be careful of that. Yeah, Blue Mudhorn chat, she has no survival skills. She does not. So at first, big pain, and I'm like, oh crap, not knowing obviously what was going to happen in the story. I was like, we got to go through the whole game babysitting, her, trying to get her to safety. I was like, this is gonna suck. But like I said, it is back and forth where she'll either be with you or she gets recaptured, so you kind of have that solo gameplay again. And I thought that struck a nice balance. And as the game progressed, I feel like she was easier to manage. I know that sounds weird, but I didn't feel like she was getting in the way. Now, we played this game for 2 reasons. One, it was on my backlog, but also 2, was a channel point redemption on stream. So if people save up their channel points, they can redeem a game for stream. If I'm feeling it, I'll push past the single stream and we'll go as far as we can, whether it's the story or I just get burnt out of it. So Turn-Based TJ was the one who redeemed it, and he's played the original. He's like, yeah, she was way worse to kind of maneuver with or deal with. She got like in the way a whole lot more with RE4 original. So I'm glad that perhaps they changed that or modified it and whatnot, because that would have been awful to deal with the entire time. Especially with the amount of enemies that they do throw at you. It's just like, woof, okay. In terms of the enemies, so I mentioned how they're all kind of infected with like this virus, the hive mind, and sometimes they have these tentacles that come out of them and whatnot. I thought it was a nice progression, even though most of the enemies do stay the same where they are these villagers, and eventually military guys as we found later. I felt like it was a nice progression in terms of, okay, it's just villagers. Okay, now you have villagers with their head that are kind of like broken and their neck's broken. They'll come right back at you. Or some of them will get the giant tentacle thing that will come out of their head, and now you got to deal with that. And then there's another one where it's like a praying mantis or whatever, where it tries to eat you. I thought that was a nice progression throughout, and it never got super boring. Of what we were dealing with. So that was nice throughout, and surprisingly those things weren't too bad to deal with. Obviously early on, similar to like your RE2s and 3s, when you get those new enemies like your the lickers, for example, for RE2, like those things are terrifying. And if you don't know how to deal with them, it's like you're gonna die. So I felt the progression here with the enemies and then their difficulty. At first, obviously it's there because it's a whole new factor, but I felt like as we got towards the end, it's like, oh, it's just this guy again. Okay, pop, 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 shoot him there. It kind of almost went right over my head, didn't even faze me in terms of like, I'm in danger, as it used to be when they first showed up. So that was good. I'm in danger. So that was good. Ada returns in this story. I don't know what the whole gimmick is there. I know, obviously, she's a character that messes with Leon and has her own agendas and objectives that she's trying to do, and she's all secret about it. I don't know what her deal is. Maybe that's the point. You're not supposed to know what her deal is. And hearing that the continuation of the story, it doesn't really clear up too much. It seems like 2 and 3 were obviously very connected. 7 and 8 connected. It seems like 4 through 6, they're kind of solo or they're independent stories. Granted, obviously you're playing as different characters. I believe 4, obviously, which we played as, you're focused on Leon. 5 is back to Chris, and then 6 is also Chris. Don't know. But it would have been nice to see perhaps a little bit more in between them. You get a few moments where she pops in. You learn more about what she is doing there with Luis, for example, and the trade deal that they had. You do get the little tease at the end of the credits here for what potentially could come up, which I thought was cool. I mean, spoilers. I don't know too much about Wesker, but to see him teased here, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So if they do decide to do the remakes, as we said, and continue this trend and do 5 and do 6, I wonder if they'll rework it a little bit or try and make it so they're a little bit more cohesive with one another. We see in 7 and 8, it's a new character, but eventually it does tie back into characters we're familiar with. So I'm curious if they'll try and interweave those a little bit more, or if it's just like, hey, these were great games that people really vibed with and are popular titles. Let's make these obviously remaster, remake versions of them and have people play the best version of these titles type thing. I don't know if they'll continue with 5 and 6, or if they'll just be like, nope, we got our new story here going on with 7, and we'll just focus on something from there. Time will tell there. Trying to think what else. I will say this in general, and I think I said this towards the end of the stream, but the Resident Evil titles overall, for me, very good in terms of I want to play them again immediately after I'm done. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like the collectible aspect, like for this one and a few others, but this one you had the little like revolutionary guys bobbleheads that you could collect in 2 and 3. I believe there were raccoons for Raccoon City and the setting there. I was like, oh, well, now I know the trigger or the sound cue with the little mechanical guys, the Clockwork Stellans or something like that, but that little squeaky sound. I'm like, oh, they're in the area. And earlier in the game, I wasn't picking up on that. Like rewatching footage back for editing for YouTube purposes, I was like, oh, I can hear the little cue. He was right there, and I didn't even bother looking for him. So I don't know if it's just a search or like I want to go back and search for those. You guys who've been with me for a while know like I like trophy hunting. I like achievement hunting. The RE games are up there in terms of like difficulty level, at least from my knowledge outside looking in and not putting a lot of research into it. Like play on this difficulty or beat it with so many saves or beat it in a certain amount of time or only using these weapons. Like there's a lot of different ones for replay, which I appreciate because it adds that depth of replayability, but it's not, while I might be going back for certain things, I don't know if I'll ever go back to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 100% of everything here and really test myself. I don't know if it's that, but since we have ended RE4 on stream, like I've been planning on jumping into Star Wars Outlaws like as my casual game, and then I played it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm feeling it, but you know what I'm thinking about? Thinking about Resident Evil, so I don't know. I mean, I appreciate it. I felt the same way after Village, after RE8, of like, yeah, I'm going to jump back into this. I'm going to play through it again. Didn't end up doing that. But I will say that's a prop to these games, is they have that kind of driving factor afterwards where you want to play them again, whether it is just like, I know all the areas better, maybe I missed a treasure, maybe I missed a collectible, or you just want to push yourself with those harder difficulties of like, let's see if I can beat it on this, or without saves, or less saves, or no healing items, or whatever it is. I will say props to them for that. That's good. Play it again. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with RE4. I'm glad I finally dipped into the backlog and did play that. Like I said, I'm curious to see what they do with the remainder of the games, if they do decide to remake them, because I'll definitely jump in, as I have enjoyed all of the games so far I've played in this most recent launches that Capcom has done. And yeah, I'm stoked for RE7, which once again we'll be playing on stream soonish, so you can keep an eye out over there on the channel as we'll jump back into that at some point. But yeah.